2025 board meeting of the Asheville-Buncombe Air Quality Agency Board of Directors. This is always a special meeting because we get to give out some awards for the Air Quality Excellence Award, Excellence program that we observe every year, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. First of all, I'm going to read the public comment protocol announcement. Public comment will be taken at the end of each board meeting. Persons wanting to address the board should sign up on the sheet provided at the door over there. Speakers will be called in the order they are signed up. Comments should be limited to specific topics relevant to the board. At the board's discretion, limited comment may be allowed on individual agenda items during the course of the meeting as invited by the chair. And finally, all board meetings shall be recorded, including public comment periods. Board members, you have the agenda in front of you. I'll ask for approval, a motion to approve that agenda or possibly an adjustment to that agenda.
So move to approve.
Moved by Carl.
Second.
Second by Caitlin. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and our consent agenda is the next item. We have approval of 2 minutes. We had the special meeting that was on June 17th, I believe, right? The regular meeting was on May 8th.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. So we have the minutes in your board packet from May 8th. I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Carl, second by Ned. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. And finally, the special meeting on June 17th, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Caitlin? Favor second?
Second.
Second by Carl. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? They're approved. Okay, on to the special presentation. And I'll go to the podium and go on with this. So yeah, this is the meeting where we announce the Air Quality Excellence Awards. This is a pretty special time of year. We've got a lot of industries that we permit, and I'm pleased to announce that we have 2 recipients this year. Usually we just have 1. So, and one of them is a repeat. So if the Eaton folks can come on up, we'll talk about their project. We've got Hunter Toothman and Ben Hale. In fact, this is their second award. As I said, the first time they couldn't even come because we had COVID. So it's nice to have them in person. I'm going to let Ashley explain their project award.
Okay, great. Thanks, Joel. Like Joel said, we've had Eaton Corporation recognized multiple times. Just like to highlight that they are part of the North Carolina Environmental Stewardship Initiative, and that is a program of the North Carolina Division of Environmental Assistance and Customer Service. And it's a great program. It's a good example. They provide technical assistance for projects like this. And so I wanted to mention that. And this particular project that they're being recognized for is at their Avery Creek location here in town, and it includes a big LED lighting upgrade, as well as 3 new ultra-high efficiency rooftop HVAC units and a control system for the building. So the part of the project that they are being recognized for right now is the LED lighting upgrade that was done in 2024, last year. And that was done with their corporate partner Train Technologies and Duke Energy as part of a Smart Path rebate program for sustainable projects. So they had some sizable reductions, over 420,000 kilowatt hours, 60 kilowatts a year. And the estimated CO2 equivalent is 125 million metric tons per year. So it's a significant energy savings for the community and less burden on the utilities to make power.
Yeah, let's say a few words.
It's always an honor to get this award, and I will be submitting for next year as well for the second part of this project. But I just really appreciate how Eaton focuses on sustainability. So this is not just, the Eaton Avery Creek or the other Eaton Arden site. This is, globally, we're invested in sustainability and have really significant and aggressive 2030 goals. And so it's just proud to work for a company that focuses on sustainability and caring about our environment and our community, and really appreciate this organization that recognizes that. Always feels good to get some recognition outside of the corporation. So thank you all very much.
All right. We'll have a photo op in front of the logo here in just a minute. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And second up, this is a special recognition to the Footprint Project because they helped us get through the hurricane, which is quite a lot, as everybody knows. Jamie Trowbridge with the Footprint Project.
Great. Thanks, Joel. I'll just give a brief intro about the Footprint recognition. It's a renewable energy focused project associated with Tropical Storm Helene. Footprint Project is a nonprofit disaster response organization that's based in New Orleans. They respond to climate disasters and deploy renewable energy resources and technology to offset gas and diesel generator usage in affected areas. So immediately following Helene, they arrived up here with a small load of battery solar generators, PV panels, and atmospheric water generators. They soon realized that the scale of the destruction was far beyond what they had expected, and they ended up setting up a hub in Mars Hill, and they began a full-fledged campaign to distribute as much clean energy across the region as possible. So some of the examples, they distributed mobile microgrid trailers and stationary microgrid technology to groups that were rendering aid. They deployed solar battery-powered generators and folding solar panels like the one you see up here to individuals with home health equipment. That's oxygen machines, CPAP machines, as well as groups that were serving people that had those needs. Individuals with more needs were paired with larger portable units and traditional solar panels that they could set up in their yards and driveways. They also had atmospheric water generators to make fresh, clean drinking water for people who only had bottled water, as far as that goes. And it's estimated they've deployed over $1 million of assets throughout the region, shifting from response to recovery. They're now permanently here. Hannah and I were able to go with our Clean Air Campaign folks. Ian Bailey with Land of Sky is here. He's been really involved, so appreciate him. He's been really busy with all that. We got to go out to Mars Hill to the old Honeywell plant where Footprint Project is set up right now. They currently have a solar free store where residents can request individual supplies to restore solar installations that were damaged during the storm, or to help build new systems at locations that became hubs after the storm. And they're also working a campaign to install permanent infrastructure at first responder facilities and community hubs, and to build assets like they brought in that will actually stay in Western North Carolina for the next disaster. So, Jamie, you want to say anything? And Ian, come on up too.
Yeah, do you want to go first? Okay. Hi, I'm Jamie Trowbridge with the Footprint Project. I am the operations coordinator for Western North Carolina. I'm from here. I was a volunteer during the storm and was running around in Barnardsville trying to find solar equipment to cobble together a little off-grid system. And then someone was like, have you talked to Footprint? And I got connected to them, and they brought in all this amazing equipment. And we were able to power the fridge that was holding the community food for our little hub. And it's been, I really like the people in the organization. I think that we, have been doing really good work, like ongoing work. And Footprint does, we've been playing a lot of matchmaker roles. So because people are reaching out to Footprint during the storm, being like, hey, can you send, solar portable generator and a Starlink over to our hub? Like, we now have relationships with a bunch of the different nodes in a lot of the region. And now we're working to get permanent community microgrids set up at those nodes, solar plus batteries, so that next time the grid goes down, those places have power. They can have well pumps. If you're rural and you have a well pump, when the power goes out, you lose your water. So that's like one thing. Another thing that we powered during the storm. And next time, hopefully, at least one building in the neighborhood or in the holler has their well pump running. And there's a lot of things like that. So thank you very much for this. And we do are still offsetting generator usage. There's still people living in RVs that have been, like living in little back pockets. Like poverty happens in a lot of ways and people get displaced in a lot of ways. And so there's people still living in RVs, still running their power off of generators, and we're still trying to give them free long-term rentals of solar equipment so that they don't have to burn as much gasoline and propane and whatnot in a generator. So, and Ian, who I adore, is also here, as well as, is that your daughter? Okay. Who I've heard a lot about. Hi, Cora. Yeah. This is weird to have in the meeting notes. Okay, Ian will say something.
Yeah, I'm Ian Bailey from Land to Sky Regional Council, and I've been working with Footprint Project since they landed in Asheville the Sunday after the storm. First as a volunteer, then on detail to them, partially funded by the North Carolina Sustainable Energy Association. And thanks to the partnership with NCSEA and Footprint Project, Land to Sky has just gotten a $5 million award from the Department of Energy through the North Carolina Energy Office to do a permanent version of what Footprint brought in here on wheels to help people. So what Jamie was alluding to about building out infrastructure at community resilience hubs and first responder facilities, we are just now kicking off the process of building out what that's going to look like, but we've received $5 million from the DOE to do a pilot program to prove the usefulness of this technology for energy resilience in rural communities across the western part of the state, with the intention of bringing more funding in to spread these out across our entire state. So I just wanted to let everybody know that not only did Footprint come in and help our people to survive and thrive after the storm, but it's also brought an additional windfall into the area that's going to help us build out permanent infrastructure and be more ready for the next disaster.
You guys come up and stand in front of the board. Come up. We'll have everybody. Put this in the middle.
You stand back here.
I'm asking about you. Just, that works. Like, I'll squeeze everybody out, I guess.
Yeah,
you're
not. And you two should switch position. Jamie and Ian.
Okay.
Switch position. Y'all need to move over this way.
All right.
All right,
Stay on
Scott.
my tiptoes.
Come closer, Carl, come closer a little bit. Move that
We
here.
turn like this, maybe? All right. Good job. Thanks, everybody. And you're all welcome to stay for our board meeting, but you're also welcome to depart as well.
Thank you very much.
Can you bring one of those agendas over here? Ashley, I think I lost mine. Okay, moving on to item 5 on our agenda. unfinished business, the surplus ozone equipment. And you might remember, we've talked about this for the last several meetings. We have some spare monitoring equipment for ozone, and we attempted to offer it up for sale for a minimum bid of $1,000 through Gov Deals. We didn't get any takers, or didn't get anybody that would bid the minimum. So Ashley had talked to purchasing at the county, and it was suggested that we could loan the equipment to UNCA, who's expressed interest. If they find that it's useful to them, then we would negotiate a price for them to actually purchase it. So that seems good to Ashley and myself. I've talked to Caitlin as well. And I'd like to propose that the board approve that approach to dealing with this surplus equipment.
Move to approve.
Caitlin's going to recuse herself since she's with UNCA.
Second.
Second by Ned. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I'm glad we got that agenda item finalized. We've been dealing with that for a while. All right, director's report. Ashley's got a lot to talk to us about. I'll turn it over to her.
Okay, thanks, Joel. There's a lot of things on this list, but most of these updates are very brief. The first thing is the post-Helene recovery update on the demolition and asbestos removal permits. As you know, the board approved the reduced fee associated with residential demolitions for those impacted by Helene at the last meeting in July. And since then, I think, Mike, we've had 4 projects where they were able to get the discount where they qualified for those.
Yeah, we've had 10 applications
Oh,
total.
wow. Okay. But 4 that have actually been done. Okay. And the other piece is the demolitions that are with the FEMA program. That one is still, we have a little less than 200.
132. I mean, a couple of those 132 were multiple demolitions that got put on one permit because of the way the property structure was, like apartment buildings or something like that.
Okay.
They've all been, what's that? Yeah. They've all been processed by us. We're awaiting signatures from FEMA. There's a signature requirement in the federal rules in regards to the NESHAP for asbestos. Once we get those, we have to process those one more time as a permit. And then we also have to work on getting money from FEMA as well.
And I think that right now those are held up at SHPA, which is a state agency, and they're looking at cultural resources and environmental impacts. And there's just a lot that has to be done for projects like that. So that's my understanding, is that they're moving through the process. Great work for everybody getting all of those applications entered into our system. We've never processed anything that large before. So that's where we are on that. And then the next item was air curtain incinerators and storm debris burning. So we still have some air curtain incinerators. There were 6 that were officially approved by us. The one at the landfill has been decommissioned. They're no longer using it. There was one out in Weaverville that was only operated briefly. We have one at the Biltmore Estate still, and then there are 2 that are at businesses that are Riverside Stump Dump, and then there's 2 other smaller stump dump type businesses, Affordable Tree Men and North End Stump and Brush. They all have air curtain incinerators. We are coming up on the expiration of the no action assurance that EPA granted for our area for storm debris, so that those units did not have to have Title V permits like they're required to. And that expires around, I think it's September the 30th. So we do have 3 units, Biltmore and those 2 smaller Stump and Brush and the Affordable Tree Men, that have indicated they would like to continue to use these air curtain incinerators. And so we have sent letters to them asking for applications, because once the no action assurance expires, they will be required to get permits. So meanwhile, there's also the biochar units that have been a lot of interest in those. There was a small unit, a biochar unit. Biochar unit is essentially an air curtain incinerator that's been modified to produce biochar product. We've talked about that before. And there's one over in Haywood County that we talked about last time, the tiger cat. So some Buncombe County folks went over and looked at it recently. They're considering, maybe trying to get, whether or not that's an option for us processing waste. There's a lot of concern, of course, about wildfires and all this debris, and it's also a beneficial product. So the update there is that we've been treating those like air curtain incinerators, but EPA just issued a letter in the last month or so indicating that the biochar is not actually a solid waste, and as such, they would not be required to have Title V permits. However, I believe they would still be required to have North Carolina, state and local operating type permits. So just waiting to see what's going to happen with that. EPA also issued a notice that they are looking at the rules. There's 4 different rules, these incinerator rules that apply to these air curtain incinerators. And we've been a lot of the agencies have been asking for EPA to take a look at those, because the ones that are just used for clean wood, for land clearing or storing debris, again, it's better than open burning, and it doesn't seem to be reasonable to have a federal operating permit for things like that. So EPA has issued in their notices of the rulemaking that they're working on that they are taking a look at that. So they might consolidate those rules. It might come out with something similar to the biochar, where they might not consider that material that's being generated solid waste. So we're just waiting to see what happens there. But meanwhile, we're going to be getting permit applications and processing permits.
Question. Have you gotten any indication from EPA as to where they're headed, other than down the toilet? And
In general,
also,
or with air curtain incinerator?
well, the current administration would like to get rid of EPA. And that obviously is going to affect all the rules we live with. And I just wonder if you have any indication of where we're headed along those lines, and how that impacts with the state, and maybe Keith can address that issue. Then the other question I had, do you have any guess as to when we're going to be finished with the cleanup from Helene?
Well, what I'm hearing is that as far as the county goes and the missions they're finishing up getting the debris out of the waterways and the private property debris removal. And so they're decommissioning some of the temporary debris sites in the county. And Amy knows about this, so she can feel free to jump in. But even though that work is wrapping up, we're also hearing that we're expecting 8 to 10 years it's going to take to process all this debris that's down out in the forests and private property, where they haven't been able to take advantage of the programs for the government to come in. So we attended a wildfire summit just a couple of weeks ago. There's a lot of concern about wildfires. So I think that reasonably it's going to be several years that we're going to be dealing with this debris. And so that's why, we'll talk about that here a little bit more coming up in the report. But we want to keep these temporary air pollution monitors and sensors going, because we do think we're going to have impacts in air quality from storm debris in the next few years. And EPA, I think I sent this as an informational item that came out later yesterday, with, summer actions. There's a whole list of actions and things that they're looking at. And a lot of
if you look at that list, a lot of them say, it's going away.
Yes. So if you look at the list, there's a lot of focus. What they're doing is trying to undo a lot of the regulations that were passed in the last 4 years, essentially. So the greenhouse gas standards for power plants from the last administration is one. There's also oil and gas sector rules, a lot of types of facilities that we don't have here in our area, but obviously, there's regional air pollution that travels. The automobile rules, they're targeting those. Some of the ones that we do have, the PM 2.5 standard that was made more stringent, they're probably going to change that one. The risk management program rules, those will still be on the books, just the latest updates they're looking to likely roll back. So if you go through the list, resolving SIP backlog. That's one that might actually benefit us because our rules haven't been approved in so long. I'm hoping that that'll be a priority and that we can get some action from EPA. They also have the air curtain incinerator rules that are on here as well. So there's definitely a lot going on here. But I think that is mainly what they're targeting, a lot of the things from the last 4 years, and that a lot of the older rules that have been on the books for a long time, I don't see those changing.
Okay.
So the takeaway on this, the air curtain incinerator, the char unit you were talking about, will they have to get a permit?
I think they still will. We're still figuring this out, honestly, because there's so much change going on. And James, feel free to jump in, but I think that they would still, even if EPA says they don't have to have a Title V permit, they're still going to have a state and local regular air quality permit.
Yeah, they'll have to be, I mean, there'll have to be a permit applicability determination. We'll have to run the numbers on what exactly depending on the size of the unit, how the emission factors play into that will be how much emissions you have per year. And if it goes above our threshold, which is only 5 tons per year of any single pollutant, they would need a permit. Most likely from the little I've looked at those, I mean, the larger units, almost all the larger units will need a permit. So at least an air quality permit, if not, not like outside of needing a Title V permit. And eventually Title V permit, I mean, the hints I got from EPA when Ashley and I, the hints we got when we were down there is, I mean, they're looking at probably removing Title V permitting from ACIs altogether, but it's the EPA. You have no idea how long that could take. It could take, they could say something in 2 months. They could say something in 2 years.
And I would just add that they do have standards. There's emission standards, visible emission standards, record keeping, what they're allowed to burn. I don't believe they're going to change any of that. It's just whether or not they have to have a Title V permit. So we will still be busy monitoring them and keeping track of their emissions and making sure they're in compliance. And even if the EPA rules were not there in place, the state of North Carolina has their own rules that apply to air curtain incinerators. So they will still, and the biochar units, it's visible emissions, you have to operate it properly to minimize visible emissions, tracking, you're only allowed to burn clean wood and things of that nature. So
yeah, whether or not they have a Title V permit isn't going to change the other standards that they're going to have to, live up to, basically. Which actually, I would think most of the state and local agencies did not like the EPA saying that these air curtain incinerators needed to be Title V. I mean, that was an EPA decision that was made a while ago, and everybody was scratching their heads going, "Why?" Especially like if it's a land clearing person and they're going to operate it for 2 months or something, they still needed to get a Title V permit. So it's kind of
Would you all
'Cause
consider, like we do on the portable grinders, since some of these units are portable, that they could get a permit, but it wouldn't necessarily be, it would be maybe area wide as opposed to a single location?
yes, so we do that currently with the portable crushers, like you said, Carl, and we have issued one Title V permit to an ACI a few years ago, same way, and essentially they can move them around, but they do have to notify us because the state of North Carolina has this zoning applicability determination requirement. And so we write the permit to say you can move it to different locations, but you have to notify, say, town of Weaverville or Woodfender, the county, and notify us 15 days in advance before you move it.
Because I'm thinking if it's used in forest cleanup, it would make more sense to take the unit if it's a large debris source and use it there as opposed to trucking that debris to some site.
Yes. Yeah, and they are portable, like you said, they're usually on wheels. So we'll see how many applications we get. Some of the ones that we have right now are struggling to use them because they are stump and brush type places like Riverside Stump Dump, and they have taken so much brush and debris that they don't have enough room on their site to safely operate it. And so some of these are just, sitting there and not being used, like the one at Riverside Stump Dump. They've decided to sell theirs, right, Steve?
That was the last time I drove on there. I couldn't see it. I think it's gone.
Okay. So, but I think that there is interest in them moving forward, even beyond storm debris. It's just another option for them. So,
Is debris piles that are catching on fire, how are those treated when we start getting the
wildfires.
well, not the wildfires as much as you saw out in Canton where the landfill up there caught on fire, and it was a woody debris landfill. Mulch yards seem to be, we lost the one up in Swananoa.
Right.
How is that factoring into it? Do they need to get a burning permit when it catches on fire?
Well, so we don't permit those because we consider it sort of an accident, or, it's not a planned event. We do monitor them, and we do report to the state and the EPA as far as if it impacts our air pollution monitor. We've seen some of that. So they do make exceptional events determinations if we had a large fire like that, for instance, that impacted our air quality monitor. We're collecting data and reporting that to the North Carolina monitoring section in case it, could potentially cause us to be out of attainment. But Keith, I can tell you.
Well, for the one in Swan Mill, it's less than a mile from our office. We had a particle pollution monitor running. And while we did see elevated levels of particle pollution, it was not anywhere close to exceeding the standard Davis count. And that was a fairly large and fairly extended fire event. Our best guess on that is that it's mostly creating PM10 and larger stuff. It doesn't really affect the health as much. We were really surprised it didn't go higher, actually. But we had the monitor at the exact right spot.
Okay, ready to move on? So the next item is the non-regulatory temporary air monitors and sensors. And Steve might talk more about that in his report, but I was just going to mention that we still have those going, and it's turned out to, we're really glad that we have those. It's definitely more work for our staff. The purple airs aren't exactly plug and play like we thought. They have issues a lot, and they have to be maintained and monitored, but the state is really helping. We have somebody at the state that's tracking what's going on, and the whole team is actively working on that. As far as the other temporary monitor, non-regulatory, that's the EBAMs, and those require a lot of work as well, but we're glad to have that data. Coming up on a year now since those, I think that those were, since they were deployed initially. And what we would like to do is, we're not quite sure if DAQ is going to continue that, but they will definitely let us know if they're not. And we are working on a project. We did submit a project. This goes into the next bullet point with the county as far as a recovery project to purchase some of that equipment. Right now it's on loan from EPA in North Carolina, and our agency are supporting it, but we would like to be able to purchase 8 or 10 of those purple airs and maybe an EBAM as well, so that we can keep the extra monitoring going, non-regulatory monitoring going for the next few years, like we talked about. And I was really excited because the county committee, it's just an initial, first pass, did select that project along with another project that would be monitoring, in addition to air monitoring. The project is also river gauges and landslide monitoring technology to improve emergency notification systems and support public health. So hopefully if that gets, approved, we might get some funding for that. And the other thing is we've received an application for using the sensor shelter from a group called Clean Air Carolina. And they are planning to borrow some purple airs from EPA, and they are going to have their own study where they want to put purple airs all over Western North Carolina, several in Buncombe, and they specifically are looking to see impacts from Helene. So we're in the process. Steve's been working on that. Really glad that the board had approved our policy and we have procedures in place for these studies. They require them to report their data to us before they publish it. Right now, they're not even collecting data because we're trying to get them approved through Buncombe County Schools to come on the property. They have to fill out like a volunteer application. There is a school there. And so it's a little busy at the schools right now, or school's not in session and there's other stuff going on. So that's in the works that they will be deploying some purple airs here soon as part of their project. So it'll be interesting to see. And let's see, other than that, I was just going to mention outreach presentations and town halls. I just did my 8th presentation. We went to Texas to the national meeting, our regional meeting for the EPA air directors. We've been asked to present about Helene and air curtain incinerators and all the things that are going on. So I did include those slides in the board packet, just so you guys could see good summaries of the work that we're doing. And so that was nice to be able to do that. And the county's having they were having what they were calling disaster resource recovery functions. They're now calling them town halls. There's actually one tonight at Ferguson Auditorium at AB Tech, and we are not going to be there. It would have been hard to have the board meeting and do that too. But they are having another one in August where we are going to participate and have a table at Kuntz Elementary. And those are in the evening from 5:30 to 7:30. So we're going to participate in that and just try to keep doing outreach with the community about the monitors and try to be helpful. And the other thing that we've been doing is firewood. We joined the residential wood smoke group and firewood banks. There's 2 that have sprung up here. They got some funding from the Center for Green Heat. And the nice thing about that center is they require safety controls. They require moisture meters and educating residents where they're giving firewood out. It's kind of like a food bank, except it's firewood. And so we have EPA's burn-wise materials where we're promoting only burning season wood and having your chimney inspected and swapping out your old wood stove with a newer one that meets the standards and things of that nature. So we're partnering with those groups, and they're just getting going, and they're looking for some land where they can store and distribute firewood, and that's been challenging, unfortunately. So, but that's in the works too.
I got another question for you.
Okay.
Everything you're talking about is what the county is doing, which is a lot. Is the city doing anything? Since this is a city-county agency.
They are. The city and the county have both come out with their after-action reports, and the city has a lot of, they've just received a lot of funding, and they have a whole separate recovery plan as well. We're really not engaged with the city. They pulled back from their boards and commissions, and they haven't been sending anybody to our meetings, and so I'd like to be more engaged with them, but since the way we're set up, we function like a county department. We're plugged in with the county, but the city not so much. So we have interacted with the city. They did invite us to come over to their biochar demonstration site in East Asheville, and we went and saw some of the work that they were doing. They're very interested in that, like the county is. And we had the city folks come out to Haywood County with us when we went to see the Tiger Cat machine recently too. But really, we have not been coordinating with them so much. I think it would be nice if we did more, but the city and the county are, they both have their own separate plans.
Yeah.
But I know that they are collaborating on different things, and we are members of the local emergency planning committee, and we're having our meeting coming up August 2nd, and Chief Knighton with City of Asheville Fire Department, he heads that up. So there's a lot of coordination with the city and the county on the emergency management side.
Certainly could be better.
Yeah, I think it would be nice if we did more together.
We'll take that into advisement next election.
There you go.
Okay, so that's all I have for the post-Helene report.
Hopefully that will get shorter as we go in.
I hope so. I had to break it down into numbers again because it's just so much I couldn't keep track of it all. So the next thing I was going to mention briefly is air quality rule amendments. We have a lot of rule updates that need to be made, and the state legislature passed a law a few years ago that required all the state agencies to readopt all of their rules. And so essentially it's been a big project. We have over 300, I think it's 320 or so rules, and every one of them, the state has been through the process and readopted all of those. When they did that, they had to look at the rules and determine which ones were necessary, which ones needed to be updated, which ones we really didn't need anymore. It was a years-long process, and now we are in the process of doing that. And Allison has drafted changes to almost all, I think, 320 plus rules. She could tell you how many there are. But we're working with the state, and we're going to be bringing those back to the board at the next meeting. Not all of them. We were trying to break them into groups. But we have a lot of rule updates that need done. And so the state, we have a new process where typically how it works is we present these changes to the board. We have line through strikeouts, we have summaries, and assuming we move forward, we do a public notice, then we come back and report on any comments we may have received and ask for the board's approval so that we can get the rules updated. The new procedure is that the state and the EPA, they want to see pre-draft rules. And so before we present them to the board and go to public notice, we are in the process of finishing. I'm still reviewing them and presenting them to the state so that they can review them before we bring them to you in case there's any issues. We adopt the state's rules by reference, but there are differences based on the way that we're set up, our structure. We have a handful of different rules, so it makes it a little more complicated. So we're going to try to do a large group. There might be 150 of them, hopefully, when we come back in September. But we have summaries, and I'm not quite sure exactly how to present it without, it'll be a few pages of summaries. The rules are grouped in sections, and it's not as bad as I'm making it sound.
I have a request
Okay.
that you give them to us at some appropriate time with enough lead time so we can go through them. Because obviously the board operates off of every rule. And we really need to go through them, understand them, and if we have comments, then that takes time.
Mm-hmm.
As Allison knows, you don't do it overnight, right?
Would it make sense to kind of present them at somewhat of an overview at the September meeting and then give us the details of it, and then we take it up in November? Because if in September we do a retreat, that's a lot too.
Yeah, but we just need time to be able to go through them. If we have 300 odd rules to go through and how this one interacts with that one, you don't sit down for 15 minutes and go through and approve them.
I know.
I do want to add that. It does sound daunting, but a lot of the changes are very small changes, like literally changing and to, so some of it is, and not every rule is changed. There are going to be some ones that, you're going to need to look through and be like, okay, this rule has substantially changed from saying, whatever it may be, but a lot of it is just, you're going to look at it and go, oh, they've just changed.
Yeah, because if we're sitting here.
But I will definitely keep that in mind. We have to keep that in mind for you
Approving
guys.
permits,
Yes.
we need to know what the rules are for approving them.
Yeah, so I think maybe what we can do is as we submit them, we do have the portal where we can, which is a SharePoint that just the board has access to. So maybe what we can do is put the line through strikeouts as we review them and pass them off to the state. And before the board meeting, we could put those up on the portal, James, and then that way there would be time with the caveat that this is a draft and we might have to change it again if the state finds a problem. But that way, if we had them up on the portal, then maybe they could have more time to look at them.
Certainly. I think it's a good idea that we can, in combination with, because we were having the state review these as well. We don't anticipate the state coming back to us and going, oh, something's wrong, because we're literally submitting the rules they've already changed. They just need to kind of double check it. So when we do that process, we could probably do the same for you guys at that same time. That would give you more than the 1 week we normally send the board packet out beforehand. We could give you, but yeah, several weeks.
And,
that you'd be like,
if when you do that, you could
we would definitely send something.
annotate it with your comments as to what and why and
Yeah.
that sort of stuff.
Certainly.
I think so. I think that if we have them reviewed and sent to the state in August and get them up on the portal, maybe mid-August, before September, so that they're up there for, and what we would be asking in September would be just going to public notice. But it sounds like what you're saying is before we go to public notice, you definitely want to be able to have time to look at them. So, okay. We'll check back and see what we can get done. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that that's coming. And so, great. Next up is the status of federal grants. So the county budget year FY25 wrapped up on June the 30th, and the federal grant for EPA's fiscal year for 2025, that year ends September 30th. We have still not received our grant. We've received $100,000, but we should be receiving another $133,000, but we still don't have a total, and we still don't have our second award. So this is the first time that we've ever gone through the county budget year without receiving our federal grant. Fortunately for us, we typically wait till July to start pulling our grant down. And so it hasn't been a real problem, but it has been a real problem for a lot of other agencies. So EPA is working on this, and some of the other locals in North Carolina are receiving their 105 funds, additional funds just this week. And we expect to have that funds by mid-August. And it is going to be, it's supposed to be the same amount as last year. Just haven't seen the total yet, so we'll feel better when we get that. But the other thing that's happened is the fiscal year 26 budget for EPA that includes our grant for the next fiscal year. That one we had reported on last meeting that the president was proposing big cuts to EPA's budget at that time. And since then, their proposal, or the administration's proposal, was to completely zero out our 103 and our 105 funds. So that's about 30% of our budget. It's about $300,000 of our recurring 105 and 103 funds. But fortunately, Congress is who makes that decision, and the House Appropriations Subcommittee has been marking up the FY26 budget over the last few days, and they are cutting a couple $2 billion out of EPA's budget, but the state and local air program management grants, they are only proposing about a 2%, a little less than 2% reduction so far. So we're watching that very closely, and the Senate has not taken up the appropriations bill yet. So that's kind of where we're at with that. We're cautiously optimistic, but obviously it's a cause for concern. So we have been having some meetings with the county. They're looking at all the different programs that have grant funding and how much of your budget and different measures like that, looking at kind of cash flow and things of that nature. So so that's what's happening with the budget. And it looks like we don't have numbers yet for the end of the year because it takes at least a couple of months. It's usually September or even November by the time we get numbers for the end of the last budget year that ends June 30th. But so far, it's looking like we could end up pulling about $50,000 or so out of the fund balance this year. But again, we don't have final numbers. So we have hired Betsy to come in and help train Hannah on a lot of the end of year grant funding work that's really complicated as far as our EPA 105 grant and our maintenance effort. So that's going well. We're paying her hourly rate. We had put about $5,000 of the budget for that. And I don't know that we'll spend all of that, but she's worked several hours with Hannah, and Hannah's doing a great job. doing all this juggling of the funds and the different programs that we have to do to maintain our maintenance of effort for grants. And also on some good news, credit card fees. The county has decided to start charging customers for credit card fees. And the amount that we've spent in our budget, it's around maybe $3,700 a year we've been spending on credit card fees. And so we will no longer have to budget for that because starting July 1, customers, they can avoid the fee by using an ACH transfer. But if they use credit cards, they do have to pay a fee, and I think it's around 2.33%, and it goes directly to the vendor. So it does not come through us. We don't have to include it in our fees. We don't touch those funds, and so that'll help some to pass that cost on.
Doesn't qualify for debit cards, though, only credit.
Right,
So what about if you use a debit card? Do you still have
that's
to pay
cash.
the fee?
Right, so even if a person swipes a credit card and swipes a debit card and selects the credit function, it is still a debit function and can't collect the fees on that. It's only, so North Carolina, I actually did the research on this. So North Carolina does permit the collection of fees for pretty much any electronic fund, but there is a federal law which preempts that, and the county can't. Nobody can say that we can collect funds that the federal government says that we can't. So it's only for people who use an actual credit card using a credit card function.
Online,
means-
that counts online too, because we don't have the machines where somebody can swipe their
So
card.
that's in person. Online, it's different.
So online, that's how we take fees for asbestos demolition and, asbestos and demolition.
Actually, for some reason, it only qualifies for in-person transactions with a swipe. So
Oh, okay.
I think that you're good for debit transactions that are offline.
Okay.
I'm not sure about that, but at any rate, next time you go to Walmart and use a debit card and they want to charge you for whatever merchant, it's illegal in this state. And not collect a fee off the use of a debit card.
Okay. Well, good to know.
And a lot of retailers are collecting.
Mike, have you had any, I guess the contractors are aware and
Yeah, and I was just sitting there thinking, well, I was thinking the other day when I was looking at transactions, I said, I'm waiting, I hadn't had a comment yet, let's say that. Nobody's said anything about the fees that they're charging. It's like on $200 permits.
Does your website have a notification that the fees are dropped? Good.
So far, nobody said anything, so I hadn't had a comment.
hopefully we'll be able to let our regular industrial facilities pay with credit cards soon because they still have to pay by check. So next up is the monitoring update. So that would be Steve and
I don't have a whole lot to report. I did want to touch a little bit on what Ashley said about the temporary air monitors. We did lose one since the last meeting. Sent that back and the state, and they sent it back to EPA. They got them to send us a couple more, so now I've replaced that one, and we got a spare. We can use it as a spare, or we can locate that one anywhere else we choose. But right now we're just holding on to it. I think given the nature of these instruments, it's probably better for us to hang on to it and use it as a spare. And we're still running the EBAM that the state loaned us. We've had a few issues with that, but we've been able to work them out. These are older instruments, so they're very temperamental. And we're hoping that will keep running for us because they don't really have a lot of spare parts to keep those going. They've got some in some other parts of the state that have stopped working and they can't get them going again. So fingers crossed on that.
And I just wanted to update you on our completeness so far for this year. For the BAM 2.5 monitor, we've got 98% completeness. The 2.5 T640, we also have 98%. And for the Bent Creek ozone, for the ozone season so far this year, we're at 94%. So things have been running real well. We just this week had an issue with the T640, but we've got that worked out. So,
Question for you, sir.
Sure. What's that?
What is the preponderance of yellow days that we've seen this summer with unusually hot, humid weather and done to our air quality, other than the visual effect of not being able to see the mountains anymore?
Well, we haven't really seen a lot of high numbers, particulate. A lot of the yellows, they're just barely yellow. If you look, they're just barely over that threshold. And that scale dropped with the drop of the standard. So a lot of these yellows probably wouldn't have even been yellows last year. So, and that's sort of anecdotal. I'd have to look at it.
Well, it just appears like the air quality has degraded some this summer. Just looking at the mountains, you can no longer see.
I don't have any visibility information, but I will say that, high humidity, can sometimes cause some issues like that. We've had a lot of that this year. So I don't know where they're doing visibility monitoring right now in the mountains. It's Look Rock, are they still doing it there?
I'm not sure about that.
So they measure that with something in deciviews or something. There's a scale, but I haven't seen any data relating to measured visibility, in recent years. But I know they used to measure at Frying Pan and at Look Rock, but I don't know that that's still being done.
So we're still below the standards.
Mm-hmm. But any other questions?
Thanks, Steve.
Permit renewals.
All right, we've got 3 permit renewals, information in your packet on that, and a new facility permit as well. So,
Would you consider the renewals as a package?
I would consider them all at one time. Carl, if you'd like to make a motion.
I will move. I would move that we renew the permits for Aprotech Powertrain LLC, Buncombe County Detention Center, Miltech Toll Grinders, and also the new facility permit for Smith Row LLC.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Kayla. Okay, I'll open it up for discussion if there's any review of the details.
I might want to separate the last one, get some details on a new permit, or at least James can tell us what's going on with that.
I mean, I'd be happy to entertain questions as part of the package. That way you can just make one vote at the
Yeah.
end.
Let's do that.
This is probably the 5th or 6th company that we've permitted to do this action. This company is specifically hired by the asphalt plants. The asphalt has recycled asphalt that they pick up that has to be ground down. So they grind it to be able to reuse it in their feedstock. APAC just has a habit of hiring new companies. So this is the newest company that's come forward that APAC wanted to use. They were permitting them just because we're going to allow them to operate anywhere in Buncombe County, just to give them some flexibility if they had another job here that they wanted to do. But most likely, it's just going to be for doing the APAC, and it's a job that happens maybe once. It's a temporary job, takes just 2 or 3 weeks, and they're here maybe once every 2 or 3 years.
So that's more of the same that we've been dealing with for the last 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we have not all of them keep their permits active, because I mean that's the hard part with these is because it's a temporary job. A lot of these companies have to make a decision: do we keep our permit active for the course of the permit, or do we say, no, we're going to deactivate the permit. But then they have to go through the process of getting a permit again through us. So it's difficult, but for them, they have to make that sort of financial decision because they do have to pay permit fees every year to keep the permit active. But as far as and emissions on these are pretty low. We've not had any, especially at the APAC plants, I can't recall having any complaints about these. Sometimes you'll see some of these temporary rock crushers operating at places where they're digging up old concrete or something like that. They can have some dust issues if they're not being run properly, but we've never seen those issues at APAC. So,
from a financial standpoint, what's the cost of a permit, a small permit like this, and what's the duration of it?
It's roughly 700-ish a year. It depends. We charge by equipment, so it depends on kind of their layout, but I'd say that's probably roughly that. Well, it's equipment, and we charge a fee because they're subject to a standard, basically a national standard, and if they're subject to those, that's an additional fee. So it's roughly $700.
A facility like this, how long will that permit last?
The $700 a year, and their permit will last 8 years now. So yeah.
8 years?
Yeah.
Okay. So they don't have to come back to us for another 8 years.
Right.
They just keep on paying the annual fee.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Taking these all at one time. All those in favor of approving the 3 renewals and the 1 new permit, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Okay. New business, we have none, and now we're down to Amy's legal counsel report.
No, I said I needed to say earlier, so you're good.
Thank you. And finally, our calendar. So our next meeting is September 11th. And we mentioned having a board retreat, which I think we still need to do to talk about the financials and where things stand. And this allows us to take a deeper dive into that. So I would propose that we meet at 3:00 ahead of the regular board meeting. Would that be okay with you?
I may not be able to make it on the 11th
At all?
at all.
Okay. Maybe we should pick a different time. So I'd like everybody to be at the retreat.
Yeah, other days probably fine.
Okay. Let's Ashley and I take a look at that.
We're gonna-
That particular week
You want to
is,
look at a Thursday, same time, just a different Thursday, or what about you?
you're talking about that week is okay, but that particular Thursday
Yeah,
is not.
that date, the 11th is not a good date for me.
Yeah, I can do 3 p.m. any of those days that week, if we want to keep it that week.
Let me bring my calendar. Let's see what the- So Labor Day is the 1st this year, right?
Yes.
I could probably do the 10th. You say
That's
that'd be
okay.
okay?
Yep,
Okay,
works for me.
you're good with the 10th? Carl?
I think so.
Okay.
So check with Gary. And
We'll check with Gary, but let's tentatively say it's going to be the 10th at 3 for the retreat and then the full meeting at 4.
Okay.
We'll talk about that.
Is an hour long enough for the retreat?
I think so. I mean, we're gonna have a lot of the information provided ahead of the meeting.
Okay.
we've been looking at
Projections
a lot of the
and all.
financial projections, so we've got spreadsheets and methodology, and we just kind of have to maybe crank in some more numbers for, longer term numbers, and I think.
We'll
think
say
we can
3
have it
o'clock.
ready.
And Ashley and I'll talk about the amount of material and everything and make sure. And plus, are we still going to plan to meet here, or now we have a new board room over there in the county building? Not yet? Okay. I was,
There's a slight chance September it could be ready, but everything's taking a
So,
while.
just
They're thinking they're going to
plan on
install the
it.
new equipment mid-August is the hope, but I don't think that they'll have the board room wired up and ready to go. So I'm assuming we should plan to be here unless we tell you otherwise. We've been told here until further notice.
I'm assuming we don't have any public
Well, it's a
comment.
short trip from here to there anyway.
Yeah. So, no public comment.
No public comment. Didn't think there was. Good check. And now we're down to any announcements on the part of the board.
Just one, our advisory committee is still in limbo, pending Ashley
kind of getting out from under all this other stuff and getting together with things that we can do to help.
Thanks for mentioning that. I think we accidentally left that off the other business. So I'm hoping that if we have some projects, the recovery plans that the county is making will be occurring in the fall. And so if we are able to participate, like we're hoping, with maybe purchasing some monitors, short-term temporary type things, like we talked about earlier, that might be a good opportunity to get the committee back together because they could look at that. There might even be issues with the rules as we get looking at the rules where we might ask the committee to weigh in on some of our older rules that are different from the state. Do we want to keep them the way they are? Do we want to change them? So I think we're going to have some opportunity
Yeah, I
to get
think
them
that,
together.
that might be a good project, especially with Keith on the committee, who works for the state and knows what their part of it is.
Anybody else? I'd like to thank Ashley and staff for the Clean Air Excellence Award reception. I mean, the food was outstanding. I mean, please take some with you if you'd like to.
I do have some to-go containers. Somebody get the to-go containers out of the closet. So please take some if there is any left. So.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Second,
We're adjourned.
we can vote.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Good call, man.
Thanks, Ed.